So I think we're live. All right, guys, welcome. Um, Thank you for being here with us. Jennifer is having some technical difficulty, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do my announcements to give her some time to get everything together. Her content was so great that she unfortunately had some technical difficulties. So hold on one second. I'm getting messages here left and right. Oh, hold on one second, you guys. Let me stop sharing. All right, so this is live. All right, so stuff happens when you're doing stuff live. So let me go back and I'll run you through the announcements and all that I got for you guys, and we'll eventually have Jennifer on with us so she can answer your questions. So let me share my screen first of all. All right, so everybody, if anybody is on, if you can share where you're from, that will be great, so we can get know where you guys are coming from and know what you guys questions you guys have. That will be awesome. Let's see. Second, you guys. All right, so let me just introduce her real quick. I'm excited to talk to Jennifer Powers from Viking Title. She is a title expert. Here to answer all your questions about the obscure world of real estate title. All right. Um, but first, I have some announcements for you guys. As you guys know, we have the beta membership launching, or beta site. We're launching in less than a month. Offmarketninja.com. Oh, there she is. Okay, there she. Offmarketninja.com. You can't see her, but I can see her. Uh, our website, offmarketninja.com, will be launching in less than a month. Where you'll be able to get instant access to nationwide buyers that will buy your deals. You also get access to our A through Z wholesaling blueprint. Uh, you'll get free access. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Jennifer. You can go ahead and um, you'll get free access to any future courses that we'll be running. And many other features are still being built out, like the member Q&As, just like this one, but we'll have it, and only members will have the ability to actually answer questions or ask questions. And the mentor matching services will match you with the best mentor for you. All right, all this for $30 a month for life, as long as you're a beta member. I'm only letting 30 people into the beta membership. So $30 per life, as long as $30 a month per life, as long as you're a beta member. And also we have the wholesaling for newbies, which is a course that you can get enrolled for only $5. It will cover the basic wholesaling principles. I will answer your questions, and whatever question you may have, and if I don't know the answer, I'll find them. I'll reach out to people like Jennifer, for example. Um, that will be next week. Well, next week, starting on Monday. It'll be Monday and Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock. It'll run for an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the questions. Let me bring Jennifer back in here. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. It's just we're live. It's okay. So real quick, I had a really cool introduction for you. So help me welcome the highest and mightiest Jennifer Jennifer Powers, the queen of title Powers. Um, Let me see, what are you guys looking at? You guys looking at still my thing? Let me stop sharing so you guys can see Jennifer. There she is.
Hi, guys.
All right. So Jennifer is from Viking Title in Florida. So I expected you to have a hat. I tried to go to the dollar store and get a Viking hat. I couldn't find one. Um, and they were like crazy expensive on Amazon. I looked, and it wasn't gonna be here on time, so I just didn't.
We've got them at our office for the after closing pictures. So
I've seen that. So every time somebody closes, you just give them a hat and cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's pretty cool. Where you actually get them? You get them from like uh, they'll give you your secrets, but
well, oh, the hats.
yeah.
Well, usually they pop up a lot during Halloween, but otherwise Amazon.
Oh,
So
Amazon. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Cool. That's
That
pretty
and a
cool.
lot of any shop in Minnesota I find carries them as well. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Cool. Cool. Cool.
they're,
Uh,
it supports their Vikings football team up there. So it's a nice win-win.
oh, that's right. Okay, cool. I don't follow sports, so I, we'll see. Anyways, so all right. So to those that have questions, I can't see your questions like always, but I do have Yvette. Say hi, Yvette. Well, if you can see it, but whatever. I have Yvette looking for your questions. If you guys have any questions about title, I would like to remind you guys that Jennifer is in Florida, but you kind of know about some other states, right? Because you've worked with companies that are national, right?
Yeah, so your national title companies, the big secret is that a lot of them are managed and operated out of a big hub. So we've got a lot of those here in Florida. So for instance, your attorney states like Texas or other states like that where an attorney is required. A lot of the times those national title companies have a big hub here. We prep the docs and then we send it to an attorney in that state that
Gotcha.
will basically sign it just like a notary would here for us
Gotcha.
remotely. So
Gotcha. So if because our viewers are going to be from all over the country, if they have any specific questions, if you don't know it, you'll be able to find it, obviously.
oh, I'll tell
Uh,
you.
oh,
So,
so okay, cool. Um, and I mean, there may be some specific questions. I know, for example, California. I just heard this that California, they have title agents and also have title attorneys and escrow agents as well, depending on the county. So all the specific questions. Jennifer will probably be able to answer. If not, I'm sure she'll be able to find it. So just keep that in mind, guys. If start putting your questions in there. But I'm gonna get some questions out of my own to Jennifer while you guys do that. So Jennifer, welcome and thank you for being with us. So tell us a little about yourself. How did you get started in title exactly?
in high school, I fell into a secretary position at a law firm, and it was family law. And
Okay,
I had always had these grand illusions that I was going to go be an attorney, and then I worked in a family law firm, and I decided that that was not going to happen. So, uh, if you've ever worked in family law, it's a lot different than real estate. It's miserable. People are never happy. Divorces, adoptions, all sorts of stuff. So, after that, I kind of had to find a different direction
okay.
and went into an accounting interview at a national title company, and that's pretty much all she wrote. So,
Okay, cool. Me and Damon in our last interview, we joked that you've been doing this since like you were 14. Uh, like, I mean, I was pretty close. I mean, high school basically.
yeah,
Um,
well, I graduated early, so that helped in my favor. But
so
I'm
you,
30, yeah, 37, and I'm going my 18th year, 18th, 19th year.
wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so you've been doing Tyler forever. Okay. I just thought that you were like, that unbiased third party at the playground between kids making deals and stuff. You've been doing it that long, but you know, you're the queen of title. As long as I'm concerned, you're the queen of title, and you worked with all different title companies too, right? You've been
Yeah,
through it,
well, yeah, especially when the mortgage crash happened 10 plus years ago, it was one of those things where we would get hired for 3 months and then get laid off. So
right? Right, right,
but
right.
before I opened up Viking Title, I was at my last place for about 4.5 years, and they were investor friendly as well. So you just kind of
Okay.
got to find where you fit in this business on this side of things. So
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So I have been spoiled as a wholesaler. I by you guys. I basically all I know, right? All I do is send you guys contracts, and all of a sudden I get a title's clear, hopefully, right? Fingers crossed. Title's clear, and I'm like, okay, great, title's clear. And then a few days later, oh, we're clear to close, and we're clear to close. So, you know, just let's keep in mind the people on this call may be newbies, but take me through it. What you guys actually do, layman's terms. I mean, as investors, we think we know, but we don't really know. So,
we don't just give you your money. That's not just our main job. So basically, our whole job is we're an insurance agency. And a lot of people kind of lose sight of that when we're going through the course of a transaction. But ultimately, our job is to the product that we produce is not just the closing itself, but it's actually the title insurance policy that backs up the closing. So we ensure your ownership to the property. So we basically are searching and issuing a title insurance policy that says, hey, you're 100% the owner, free and clear. Here's your 100% ownership. And we got this, title policy to back that up. And then as far as if you're a lender, for instance, like let's say you're refinancing or something like that, a lender's policy is also issued, which basically ensures that they're first in line, first lien position. So there's nothing else that's going to come before them getting to your property first if you default. So that's basically in a nutshell what we're actually supposed to be doing for a living. But a lot of times, throughout the closing process, it can get a little dramatic and whatever else. So a lot of people lose sight that our job is to determine the liability in the situation. And then our job is to take full responsibility for that liability. So for instance, if you've got an open mortgage, it's our job to make sure that gets paid off. If it's lien or something like that, it's our job to make sure that it either is relevant, and if it is relevant, we have to make sure it's cured. Or if it's not relevant, we have to make sure that we're covered as to why it may not be relevant to your property. So, because those are all issues that can affect you owning the property 100%. So, that's kind of what we're supposed to do. Not all title companies always do that. Throughout the course of the transaction, of course, there's a lot more moving parts that go into it. But basically, I try and explain to people that our job is to really help you do better business. And a lot of people kind of look at their title agency or their closing attorney as somebody trying to hinder the transaction or somebody who's trying to stand in the way. And there are a lot of agencies out there that do feel that way and act that way. But what we try to do differently is we try and find the solution that works best for everybody. And no matter what comes up or what can be the challenge, there's typically a win-win. It just might not be a timely win-win in some situations, but for the most part, we try and look for that solution rather than obstacles. So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. As a newbie wholesaler, basically what you need to know is that we can be your best friend. We're not trying to stand in the way of you and your payday, but we can also be, a great asset for you as you navigate and explore this business, because every transaction is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be different challenges you face as the market tempers. You're going to see a lot more challenging legal issues. And we're supposed to be your partner in that. We're supposed to be the one that kind of helps you get to that finish line. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't really have that relationship with their agencies where they feel that way. And I think that sucks. I've never done business that way. But it's one of those things where, we can really kind of help you do better business and get to that finish line on deals that you may not have been able to in the beginning, or you may not be seasoned enough to be able to handle. But that's really what our real job is supposed to be. So, because we don't make money either unless we get you to closing. So just keep that in mind too. So if we call
It
you,
sounds like you're very hands-on. I'm sorry to cut you. It sounds like you're very hands-on when it comes to, you're dealing with wholesalers.
I don't even necessarily want to say hands-on. We can be at times, but more so it's more like babysitting in a lot of ways sometimes. But other times it's also, it also depends on how involved your wholesaler is. You've got some wholesalers that'll put it under contract and expect it to just get to closing on its own. And then you've got other wholesalers that are very involved, and all we do is send them a checklist. Here's what we need. And they help us get that, and you're clear to close. So it just really depends. It's just like when you have a real estate agent. You've got some that are very involved and are there for the inspection and there for the appraisal and there for every single step. And then you've got others that basically kind of phone it in, and you can't get them on the phone half the time. So it's one of those things where it's as much as you put into this business is really up to you and your prerogative. And I find a lot of that has to do with seasoning. A lot of investors are only involved as much as they need to be. They don't want to waste time unnecessarily. And then I've got other ones that, have perfectly good, clean deals, and we're just waiting on the closing date to roll around, and, they're calling our office 4 times a day, stressing out. So it's just kind of how you take this business is a big part of how your deals flow and how quickly and smoothly they go. So it's each their own in that regard. But as you learn more, especially as a newbie, you'll see exactly where there's times where you've got to dig in, and then there's times where you can take the day off, or you can not have to stress about it. You know, because the flow of the file is going to be what it is, no matter how hard you push.
So my what I do, and I'm doing it wrong apparently, but what I do, I just get the purchase agreement, get the assignment contract, just send it to you guys. And like I said, I've been spoiled. You
You've been
guys
very
just
spoiled, yes.
I
So
just get 2 calls,
you're welcome, by the
it's
way. That's
clear.
good.
Yeah, thank you. It's clear, and we're closing on this date. That's it. That's all I hear. But so you guys do a lot more than actually I even thought that you did. Because really all I really have to deal with is I do a lot of code enforcement. Really all I have to deal with, especially with code enforcement, is liens and fees and whatever. Of course, I go back to I'm so used to that, but it sounds like you guys are doing a lot more in the back end, which I even that's
Well, and then there's a lot of moving parts, but that's our job. That's our role in the
right.
transaction, is to be that person and that one. Because you got to remember, you're dealing with people every single day that are in various stages of chaos. So one of the biggest things you're ever going to do is buy or sell a house in your life. Unless you're an investor and you do it every day, it's one of those things where, to your average homeowner or your average mom and pop, they don't do this every day. And so this process can be very intimidating, and very overwhelming, especially when they're in over their head, or they feel insecure, or they feel like that real estate investor really took advantage of them. There's a lot of insecurities when it comes to this process. And so our job is sometimes it's just to kind of listen, and be that counselor, hey, this is how this works, and this is what to expect, and kind of handhold them through that. And I find that that's something that we kind of do a little bit differently. Not all title agencies that I've worked at over the years have really taken pride in that, because on our side of things, it's a volume-based business. So if I have to spend 20 minutes on the phone with your seller, kind of coaching them through the closing process, that's not something that's making me money at the end of the day. But in my world, that's something that I enjoy about our job and our role in that transaction, is being able to take the 10 minutes to de-stress them and walk them through what's to be expected, and let them know that it's not going to be this horrible, big, dramatic thing because you read something in the deep depths of Google that has scared the crap out of you, or your cousin who's a real part-time real estate agent has told you that all investors are evil and you can't trust them. So that's kind of really where we're a little bit different. But at the same time, each agency kind of handle those types of insecurities a little bit differently. And that's where really, finding a partner that fits with you and your business model and is comfortable with you and how you handle your clients is imperative to really being successful in this side of the business. Because investing can be easy, where it's wholesaling and you're barely involved. But then it can be a little bit more laborsome as you're taking on more challenging, issues. If you're doing code enforcement, you got to deal with the city, you got to deal with the agency. That's pretty much it. If you're dealing with a foreclosure, or if you're dealing with a divorce or probate or any of those issues, you're dealing with attorneys, you're dealing with a lot more moving parts in the transaction. So it's a little bit, you want to find somebody who treats your client like you would want to be treated, but also how you treat your client as well. So
what I'm hearing, I'm sorry to cut you off. What I'm hearing from you is, depending on the type of deals that you're going after, also you have to figure out what kind of title company you're going to go after, because
absolutely.
they may not want to deal with those complicated deals like I do, code enforcement, or free foreclosures or whatnot.
Absolutely. And that's why a lot of title agencies, depending on what state you're in, really don't like investor business. I mean, I hate to tell you guys that, but that's
Yeah,
the big secret on
I
this
know.
side of stuff. You guys are a pain in the butt a lot of the times. you gotta look at it from our
That's
perspective.
why.
We got a cake retail deal where the biggest issue is, the color of the cabinets, or we've got your deal where there's 5 dead heirs on, or, five heirs on title from some dead guy, and we got to track down, and 2 of them are drug abusers. You kind of gotta understand the context.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, I
So,
get it. I get it.
and we also get paid on the premium. So you guys might be making 50 grand a deal. We'll be lucky if we make 1,500, here in Florida. So there's a time investment kind of model that we have to monitor and be aware of when we work those kind of messier deals. I have not done a lot of this my career correctly because I'm not really money motivated. I know that sounds horrible as an entrepreneur, but
Yeah.
I've never really been, money's not my main motivator. So for me, being told I can't do something or the deal can't be done, that's when it's like, all right, game on, you know, for me personally. But other people in our side of the business are a little bit more money motivated than me. So they don't
Yeah.
care if they make, you know, if it's a you know, tons of hours invested in a $10,000 deal. Mine more is, let's see if we can do it. Whereas, you know, other agencies are going, it's a $10,000 deal, we'll make 500 bucks. Why are we wasting your time? So
Right.
you got to understand that there's a model on our side that if you're aware of as an investor, it can really help you work better and smoother with whoever you are currently working with or whoever you're going to work with in the future. Because at the end of the day, every title agency issues the same product. It's the same owner's policy. It's the same lender's policy. It doesn't matter. The only value that's different or the only difference in title agencies or closing attorneys, doesn't matter what state you're in, is the experience and the value that they're bringing to you and the customer service aspect. And that's across the board, doesn't matter what state. So that's where a lot of people, if you look at it from that perspective, then next time you call your title agent, you're, you know, trying to find out for the 5th time today if that search is in, you know, maybe you'll understand when there's a, you know, there's a little bit of a different attitude, or there's one of those things where they're saying, hey, these are what I can tell you, it'll be in on Tuesday. You know, just understand that that's, you're one of many in their pipeline. And while you're still a priority, doesn't mean that you're not a priority. It's one of those things where you're literally one of 17 files that they're going to touch today. So, you know, that can kind of help you get to where you need to be, because it's always nice. It's always a good thing to be nice to your title agents, you know, make sure you go to the top of the pile.
Right.
You know, so.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I didn't even know, I didn't even realize that, you know, I just thought you guys were not being nice, but not accepting investors. But I didn't realize that on your end, you know, there's this retail deal, which it's uh it's easier to deal with, obviously. And then there's us where, yeah, you're right, like 5 dead people and drunks,
Yeah.
basically. So I get that. I get that. By the way, people are saying hi to you, Jennifer. Ramon Ray say hello, Jennifer, and Joel Mansfield say hello.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. Um, Now, real quick, and like I said before, you're in Florida. In Florida, you guys deal with we deal with title agents, even though we can go through a title attorney, I think as well. I'm not really sure how that works, which I never have. But in Georgia, where I'm at, we use title attorneys. So it would depend upon the state that you guys are in, what who handles restricted transactions. So there's the title agent, title attorney, or escrow agent in some other states, which you basically do the same work, right? So uh,
Absolutely. And there's a couple of states that don't even require title insurance. So it's optional.
really,
So for instance, in South Carolina or North Carolina, I believe, I can't remember which Carolina it is. But one of them, it's optional. So really the seller's attorney handles everything, and they don't issue you a title policy unless you specifically ask for one. So there's a lot of things like that where, you know, each state that you're doing business in, you need to kind of be aware of those restrictions in that state. For instance, here in Florida, we have attorney-owned title companies, and the reason why is because the attorneys can basically get the legal authority to issue title insurance with a law license, right? They have to be underwritten and go through all the same hoops that we do, but essentially they can come out of law school, not know anything about anything, and get licensed for title insurance, right? So here in Florida, it's actually considered a conflict if the attorney involved legally advises you in any capacity if they are writing a title insurance policy on the property, because it's considered a conflict of interest. So if I'm your attorney and I'm doing your closing, great. But if I answer a legal question in the sense of, hey, you know, how does this work? Or we've got some sort of escrow dispute, and I put on my attorney hat, I'm now in violation if I'm writing that title insurance policy and legally advising you, because you have to disclose it. You have to have all sorts of buffers in place, because ultimately at the end of the day, I can't do both in a lot of the examples that come forth. Now, a lot of the stuff that they do or they might legally advise on is just basic knowledge. So a lot of people there's one title company here in town that their tagline is, if you're not closing with an attorney, you should be. Well, that's good and great, but we all know that attorneys aren't necessarily cheaper. Okay. And we all know that they know everything. So it's one of those things that may not be the best fit for your model if you're doing business in the state of Florida, because where we come in is we literally have to stay the neutral third party because I am just a title agency. I'm not a law firm. So for us, that obligation is a little bit, clearer as where our line sits, and people understand it. Whereas if I've got attorney at law on my door, people get confused by that. And just because I'm acting as a neutral third party, a lot of the times they have to get special disclosures signed where they're telling you, hey, we're not representing you in this transaction. If you're selling your house for 10 grand and it's worth more than that, that's on you, So you've got to kind of understand that there's ebbs and flows to those types of deals, especially when you're dealing with distressed sellers, where you've got those little things that you just need to be aware of. That attorney isn't there to legally advise anybody in the transaction. They're acting as a title agency or acting as an escrow agent, and they're issuing that title insurance policy. They are not supposed to be legally advising you. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, why pay more for the same product? And as far as our side of it goes, we're very attorney friendly in the sense that a lot of my clients are attorneys themselves. So if you've got a foreclosure issue, if you've got a bankruptcy issue, I not only have one attorney that can answer that question, I've got 4, and they're probably in my last 10 text messages, So for us, it's a little bit of a different niche. In other states where you've got an attorney that acts as a closing agent, some states, they have to go to law school and then go to additional schooling to be able to issue that title insurance. And then you've got the states like, for instance, the Carolinas, where that's where they don't even have to issue a title insurance policy. Seller's attorney closes it however the seller's attorney feels that it has to be closed. And it's kind of more like a wild, wild west situation where you're at the mercy of that seller's attorney. So if they think that you're underbidding their client, they can tell their client that and blow up your deal. So there's a lot of things that you kind of got to be aware of as you move through different states and as you become familiar with the nuances in that particular state. In Texas, for instance, there's a lot of lending guidelines that are a lot different than anywhere else in the country. And it's because you have to be an attorney in Texas to close loans as well. So, and the way the structure for the title searches and everything else is built in very differently. They go through title plants, not the clerk. It's a very different world. So as you move state to state, and I know a lot of people are getting into the virtual wholesaling, for instance, it's very imperative that you understand those differences in those states, especially if you're using investor tools like land trusts, LLCs, that sort of stuff. The rules for each one of those investor tools are very different in each state as well as the wholesaling rules too. So it's just good to kind of get to know where you're jumping into before you do it. So.
And the way you find out is by, I usually just do a Google search, whatever market I'm in, right?
Google will tell you a lot. If not, it's good to call. You can chit chat with your local title agent, and I'm sure they can hook you up. And if they don't know the answer, they can call their underwriter. We're all underwritten. Just just like if you've got a driver's license in Florida, you have to carry car insurance. Right. Same thing. If you're a title agent, you have to have an underwriter, and that doesn't matter what state you're in. So for us, we've got a big boy underwriter that has offices internationally and everything else that backs us up and takes a split of everything we make. So essentially, we're a phone call away. If you want to find out about closing or you need a referral for a closing agent in a different state, I'm not happen to be underwritten there, I can call my underwriter and find out who is appointed there, because if they're vetted by my underwriter, I can at least speak to them being vetted. And usually your underwriter can tell you who would be investor friendly in that market as well. So.
Gotcha. So you actually answered one of the questions I had coming up. How do I find a company? Well, first of all, why do you have to choose an investor friendly company? You kind of already answered that because we're a pain in the butt, apparently.
Well, and it depends on what kind of investor, business you're doing. So if you're doing probates, you want to make sure you find a title company that's familiar with errors and familiar with probate rules. If you're doing, code enforcement, you want to make sure you've got somebody that understands how a municipality works, how those liens could be negotiated or remedied or cured after closing. You've got a lot of different nuances that you've got specialty, kind of like niches in the investor world. Like Damon, for instance, that you had on last week. He does creative stuff. So in his stuff, he'll do a creative deal based off of a probate. Well, he needs to make sure that he's dealing with a title company that's got a savvy enough closing department that they're not going to give him a hard time over every single probate order if it's done properly, because there's a lot of bad information on our side of things too, where yes, it's a phone call away, but a lot of people only learn in the title business by learning underneath whoever hired them. So if I hire somebody who's in off the street and they learn title from just Jen Powers, their title knowledge is going to be the title world according to Jen Powers. It's just that simple, right? It's what you're exposed to. So a lot of those more challenging issues like a probate or, you know, code enforcement or, you know, any type of distressed property, really, those are all going to be issues that most title agents learn according to whoever taught them, right? I've been great. I'm very lucky in my career. I've had some great mentors along the way, but at the same time, I've also asked why. And if we don't know the answer in house, I've called my underwriter and found out the answer and found out the why behind it, because I don't take no easily, right? But most people aren't that driven or curious for a lot of these issues. So, you know, your basic title agent may be in this business for 30 years, but that doesn't mean she's a probate expert for the last 30 years, you know. And if you're working probate deals, that may not be the best fit for you, no matter how nice she is or how many drinks she buys you, you know. So you got to kind of, you know, take it as, would you rather the freebie stuff, or would you rather somebody that knows their craft well enough to be able to get the deal pushed through with minimal effort, and as little issues as possible. And then there's also the personality part of it, where you've got a lot of, I hate to say it, but you know, hens in the hen house in title world, where most title companies are female majority. And you know, depending on the day, as you can imagine, as a married man, Jonathan, I'm sure you can speak to this, you know, depending on the day, depends on what mood she's in, and you know, dinner's going to be on the table, right? So
I'm glad you said that. Okay.
You know, it's the same thing for us. Everybody's got their moments. So you just kind of have to find a title agency that fits personality wise with you as well, because like I said, how they treat you and how you treat your sellers, and you want to find somebody that has those same business values in that. Because to take a closer who calls somebody, let's say a seller who's wholesaling, you know, who's sold their house to a wholesaler, the wholesaler is now wholesaling it to someone else. How they handle those questions as it comes up, like, hey, why is there a different company name on my HUD? I thought I was selling it to ABC Buy Houses, you know. It's a very simple question. My answer to that is, well, that's their funding partner. They've chosen to close underneath that name. End of story.
Exactly.
But you're still dealing with Joe, or you're still dealing with Jonathan, right? You know, they're still going to be your point of contact. They're not going to single-handedly rehab your house by themselves. So they've brought in a funding partner. And it's as simple as that. You know, am I lying? No. But do I need to get into how wholesaling works or why it's being wholesaled? Absolutely not. If they ask, I'll tell them and I'll explain to them everything I need to. But it's one of those things where, why add fuel to the fire, to explain something to them that, you know, they've given you rights to do underneath the contract. If you haven't handled that conversation with them as a seller to a wholesaler, it's not really my job to sell your deal to them. Right. You know, so in a lot of ways, it's just keeping it as simple as possible for them, because like I said, they don't do this every day. Now, we also do something different where we do blind HUDs, where if you're a buyer, you see the buyer side. If you're a seller, you see the seller side of the HUD. But your seller doesn't necessarily see the buyer side, which is where usually the wholesale fee is, you know. And that goes twofold. If they believe that they sold their house via cash, right? They see financing fees or a lender on the buyer side. I'm dealing with not only more questions than what a wholesale fee is, but I'm also dealing with, why aren't they bringing cash? Well, we all know a lot of wholesalers in this business love to put cash contracts in place and then turn around and close with private money, right? That's a standard operating procedure for a lot of people. But do you think that they've explained that to the sellers at the table or when they've signed that contract? No. Why? Because it's not relevant. And that's where a lot of the privacy issues come into play. For instance, on a retail transaction, CFPB states that you can't have the buyers and sellers in the same room anymore. Why? Because you're going over the loan terms for the buyer's financing, which is privacy information, right? It's all information that's supposed to be kept private. So in the same spirit, I've always kind of explained, you're not seeing the buyer side because that's got their financing details on it as well. And to be honest with you, it's not really your business, you know, in that regard. And usually it's a non-starter as long as they get their money that they're expecting at the closing table. They're fine. They could care less what name you're buying the house under. They could care less who you're bringing in to help rehab it. They could care less how much money you're making. As long as they're getting what they were promised, the sellers typically don't care. And that's where it's not that we try to exploit that. We just try keeping the system and the process as smooth as possible. So for us, it's a little bit, we take a little bit of a different approach. Not all title agencies feel that way. A lot of title agencies and attorneys feel that everyone needs to know everything about everything going on in the transaction. Well, if you put a cash contract in, technically, is that a bad contract? No. If you choose to close with hard money, it's your prerogative, right? But at the end of the day, should you be getting that contract amended to reflect that there is now a lender? Yes. But if it's not a contingent contract, or if that contract has nothing to do with whether or not it's cash or hard money, is it really necessary to go back and get that? Not really, because at the end of the day, seller wants their money as promised, and that's all they care about. If you have to sell your grandma's jewelry to make the deal happen, they don't care. Like they could care less. You signed the contract, you're fulfilling it. End of story. So it's a little bit of a different perspective when you've been doing investor business for a long time. But those are some reasons why you should care, because one call to a seller to explain, if you've got a chatty processor on the phone and they call the seller and explain that you're making 50 grand on their deal, it's going to be an awkward conversation. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you just kind of want to be sure that whoever you're dealing with has the vision, I guess, and the tact to handle those types of conversations with sellers. If they do ask those questions, they know how to field them, and they know how to properly, answer them without causing unnecessary drama or challenges for you as an investor. So
Cool. Love it. Love it. All right. So guys, I don't see any questions posted on here, but I have a few. And I have a few, meaning that we may go over a little bit because I have some questions, if that's okay.
sure.
Is that okay? Okay. I always go over because I get into the conversation and so if it's cool, I know you got Saturday stuff to do, so I'll
I have
try
no
to.
life. You're right.
No, you have Saturday stuff to do. And real quick, going back to we were just talking about, I'm the kind of wholesale who I feel like it will be hindering my deal if I explain wholesaling to the seller. So because if I get into that, I just scare them off. So I try to at all times be the buyer at all times. And then when it closed, I didn't even know what you guys did at closing. I just send the buyer and the seller, figure it out. And I didn't know that those questions came up. So that's good that you touched on that. That's good. All right. So quick question. So I understand title insurance. I'm actually a licensed insurance agent, even still to this day. So I understand title insurance. I understand insurance period. What is a warranty deed?
So when you take title to a property, you can do that by what we call an instrument. Okay, and that instrument can be a different type of different types of things. For instance, if you buy at auction, you don't get a deed; you get a certificate of title, right? In different states, it's called different things. Sometimes it's a clerk's title certificate, or sometimes it's different variations on that term. A warranty deed is just one of the most common conveyance tools, I guess, or conveyance instruments, you could say. It basically states, hey, in good faith, here's the property, and I'm warranting that I am giving it to you, free and clear of any liens that I'm aware of. And, it's literally the difference between a warranty deed and a quit claim. And it's quit, Q-U-I-T, not Q-U-I-C-K. Fun fact, no matter what you might see on Google. So quit claim deed is basically, hey, I'm giving you the property, you're taking my ownership.
Figure it out.
No guarantees, man. Like, you're on your own, right? So, but a warranty deed is something that's just stating, hey, it's in good faith, and here's the property, But outside of that, it's not guaranteeing title insurance. It's not guaranteeing clear title. It's not guaranteeing anything really, in a lot of ways. But the recourse legally for any issues that might come up after that deed's been signed is very different with case law, in the differences of how that deed is conveyed. So if you're doing a quit claim, it is usually the cleanest as far as, you're on your own. If you know the property's got issues, don't sign a warranty deed. But if you're doing it in good faith and you've disclosed those issues and you're like, hey, Jonathan, here's the property, but there's code enforcement crap on it, here you go. And I've got no problem signing a warranty deed because I've disclosed to you any potential issues that I may be aware of, right? As far as the types of warranty deeds, that goes into basically how the title is really held. So a lot of people I'll see a lot of the times on these wholesaler contracts that'll come from other states, it'll say special warranty deed. Well, the only reason why you do a special warranty deed is if you're usually signing as a power of attorney or as an appointed signature for, LLC, blah, blah, blah. Or if you are appointed as a guardian for an estate or, PR of an estate, then it would be considered a special warranty deed, which just basically means it's not an individual to an individual. And then each one of those has different verbiage in it based on how that title is being held. Is the easiest way I can explain it. If you saw the templates, you'd understand because you're like, oh yeah, this one says you're a PR, or oh yeah, this one says you're a manager of an LLC. That can be considered a special warranty deed. But for the most part, special warranty deed is the same thing as a warranty deed. It's just you've got a fancy title under your name, and that's pretty much it. So there are some variations to that as far as different states go. So if you're a PR in certain states, there's different verbiage. Or if you're a guardian here in Florida, there's different verbiage. Or trustee, you usually have trustee rights on there. So there are variations of that. But like I said, it comes down to how you really hold title in that regard to make that special warranty deed special, I guess. But as far as your standard, closing, it's a warranty deed. It's as good as you're going to get. It's fine. There's nothing that, more that you got to look for. It's just basically, and a lot of people think that they need quit claims, and in actuality, you don't. You can totally sign a warranty deed and you're fine. So it's just one of those things that's a nuance in this business where there's a lot of bad information out there about those variations as well. So, but at the end of the day, you're getting ownership. Doesn't matter. It's kind of one of those things where just like a seller is not going to tell you everything that's absolutely wrong with the house unless they absolutely have to, but they're doing it in good faith. They're not completely lying to you. They just might not mention that they know the paint's peeling off the back of the house or something, like something small like that. Same kind of concept, just for title purposes. So, they're doing it in good faith. They've disclosed it. Here's your warranty deed. So.
Gotcha. I mean, this may be a little too advanced for our listeners. I mean, just send your paper to the title agent. People like Jennifer, that's what they do.
We're the nerds.
Send your paper.
We're the nerds.
Yeah, those are the nerds.
So yeah,
Exactly. Just send your paper. Just make sure everything is signed, and that brings me actually to the next question. So, I know this because I've heard you speak I heard you speak before in regards to this. So when I look at the property appraiser, right, and I see two owners, that may or may not be the case, right? So how do I find out if there's other? Go ahead. Just what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I encourage, especially new investors, to do is if you're dealing with somebody that you're trying to negotiate a property under, and this goes for especially if there's like a dead person in title or something like that. If you pull up the appraiser's website and it says deceased or it says estate of, right? You're dealing with a dead person, right? So how do you know Sally, who happened to answer the door at the property when you were door knocking, really is the heir to that estate, right? So it's here in Florida, it is stupid simple to just double check that stuff. Or if you're dealing with a husband and wife, and let's say only the wife is the one negotiating because the husband doesn't know anything kind of thing, you want to make sure that whoever you're getting that contract signed with is actually the person who has the authority to sell the property, right? And while you can pull up the appraiser's website and it'll tell you, hey, Jen Powers owns this property, that's great. But what it doesn't tell you is that if Jen Powers actually owns the property, that owner information on most appraisers' websites, and each state varies, but here in Florida, for instance, if let's say I'm your property manager or I'm the trustee to your land trust, and I want to be the point of contact for you as the owner of the property, Jonathan can sign a form that allows Jen Powers to now walk in, hand them a form, and now when you pull up Jonathan's property on public record, it will say Jen Powers is the point of contact for the owner, right? So does Jen Powers own the property? No. Is Jen Powers even necessarily the contact for the owner? No. But with one simple form here in Florida, I can walk in and become the point of contact on that appraiser's website. So if I answer the door at the property, do you think that I've got the authority to sell it legally? No. But you've got to kind of be aware of that when you're doing that, especially with investor held properties, like with property managers. It's very common for them to do that in. You'll even see attorneys, law firms, names on there occasionally. It's whoever is basically running point for the seller. In a probate situation, that becomes imperative because if it's a deceased person, you've got maybe the person that you're dealing with, and then you've got potentially who knows how many other heirs or people out there that may stake claim to that property. So how do you avoid it, right? So the easiest way to do it is to look up the actual last deed of record. So instead of just taking that name up at the top of the appraiser's website, here in Florida, there's actually a hyperlink halfway down the page to the last deed of record for that property. You literally just scroll down, hit the link, and then the deed comes up. And that deed will tell you, Jane and John Doe conveyed to, that warranty deed will show you Jane and John Doe to Jonathan, not Jennifer, right? So you'll see Jonathan's name, and then you go, that's weird because Jennifer's name's on the appraiser's website. What's happened there? Then you can at least prompt the question to whoever you're negotiating or talking to. Hey, I see here that the last deed of record has Jonathan on there. Is he available? Oh, he's dead. Okay, well now you know where you stand. So there's stuff like that where it's stupid simple to check. 30 seconds of checking and going a little bit deeper can save you a lot of the time in the long run. And those are the types of questions that if you ever are talking to somebody, you can't really figure it out, or there's no deed of record, that sort of stuff. I can tell you all day long how to go through the official records and pull it up for yourself and do your own title search. But for the most part, that's when a quick call to the title agency, hey, I'm talking to the owner on this property. I'm not really sure they've got the authority. Would you mind taking a peek? And it should be a 45-second, thing for us to look it up, because that's our wheelhouse. That's our world. So for us, it takes maybe a minute or two to confirm that you're dealing with the right person. And sometimes that phone call can save you a lot of time, a lot of hours, and a lot of effort if you're dealing with the wrong person. So.
Gotcha. So does that mean that I'm technically not on the contract if I get the wrong person to sign the contract? So
you can always go back and get the right person to sign the contract. So I mean, if they believe they're the right person and you want to go ahead and run with that, by all means, feel free. But just understand that to be able to legally enforce that contract might be a different issue. It's the same thing that when people have heirs sign contracts, right, before the probate's ever been filed or before anything about the estate. Is that technically an enforceable contract? There's a big debate about that, and at the end of the day, you won't know if that's an enforceable contract until you're in front of a judge. So for us, it's one of those things where go for it, keep it in good faith, get it going, whatever the case might be. But just understand that at the end of the day, if they're not the true heir, you're running into a challenge. For instance, we had one recently that a wholesaler brought to us, and it was a house, no electricity, it was
one of those
for a while, and she was actually living there. So, but she seemed very intelligent. But she was trying to sell the property. Right. So she said she was the heir to her father's house. Okay, no problem. So we start digging back the layers, and something just wasn't jiving. She wanted money right away. It was going to tax auction, this, that, and the other. And I'm going, okay, well, we'll see what's going on here. She got quite dodgy when we told her she needed to get on the phone with the probate attorney and that sort of stuff. And she was wanting money to basically talk to the probate attorney. We're like, kind of odd. So come to find out, I get her on the phone, start peeling back the layers. And I finally told her, look, my job is to get this through to closing so we can get you your money that you're asking for. Okay. But we have to do our job too. And part of that job is making sure that this is going to be done correctly and that your father actually did leave this property to you. And I have no doubt that he did, but we just have to confirm. So did he have a will? And she was just like, well, not one that I have. And I'm like, okay, kind of a sketch answer, right? And then I was like, okay, well, do you have any brothers or sisters? And her answer was, well, I don't see how that's relevant. And I was like, that's a yes, and so, and it was one of those things where as I started peeling back the layers, come to find out, Dad had a few properties, okay? And prior to him passing, there was a will, and they did file it with the clerk. And it turns out that out of 3 or 4 properties that were in this will, they had deeded off basically prior to his death, 3 out of the 4 that were on there. And the 4th one, the one that was still remaining, wasn't even this property. So in her mind, she was entitled to the one that was left because she got cut out of the other ones, right? But in actuality, she wasn't entitled to this one that she's living in and squatting in basically. She was entitled to one of the other ones that was already deeded out. Her sister had the dad deeded out before he died. So she was kind of cut out. And I understand why she's saucy with her sister on that. But at the same time, legally, not only would it be split, hypothetically, let's say that will didn't exist, you know, in the way the probate works, they're both blood relatives. They were both 100% his kids, you know. And so essentially, both mom, both dad, you know, like both entitled to that property. So between her and her sister, typically a typical estate, if there was no will, would be split between the two sisters, right? But in this situation, since there was a will, it didn't work in her favor that the will specifically stated this property goes to this person, not you, not the one that we're dealing with. So for us, it was a little bit more of a challenge, because when a will is in place like that, we can't ignore the dead person's wishes, right? And so they did the right thing by going and putting it on record so that it didn't disappear. But at the same time, in her mind, she was still entitled to it because her sister cut her out of the other property. She wasn't entitled. So all that stuff we wouldn't have ever known if we didn't get on the phone and start asking the right questions. Meanwhile, my investor was literally on his way to go give her a $10,000 check to help her relocate before we figured any of this out. And I told him, I was like, don't give money to her. Let's find out a little bit more information first. And thank God he didn't, because otherwise she would have walked with the 10 grand and he would have had a contract on a house that he couldn't buy. So that's kind of where you're at as far as, you know, that sort of stuff goes. You just kind of have to be aware of who you're dealing with and what's going on with that. So, but that's an extreme example. That doesn't always happen all the time, but it's just something to be aware of. So.
You gave me a great example there. I saw a post on your on your Facebook page. And I was like, this gotta be a story behind this. So it was something about there was something about the mistress being on title, whatever. You know that post? You know what I'm talking about? Like, do we deal? It was more saying that you guys deal with like crazy situations like that. That the mistress was on title, and then it was an awkward situation. So what's your awkward thing?
Yeah.
I want to hear about that one. So that's my last question, by the way. So.
Oh, that was one of the ones that we had gotten to the closing table. It was actually a refinance, and we had gotten to the closing table, and of course, and I hate to say it, but they were foreign names on the title, so we had to kind of call and make that awkward conversation of, okay, who's the husband, wife? Okay, they're married. Are they a married couple, or what's, you know, because you couldn't tell if it was a male or female kind of name. And I know everybody identifies these days, so no judgment here at all. But for title purposes, we kind of just have to make sure everybody's showing up at the closing table that's supposed to be there, you know. So for us, we could care less what kind of lifestyle or what you self-identify as, or if you're wife and wife, or like whatever, to each their own. Our thing is, here in Florida, we have what we call homestead rights. So essentially, if you're husband and wife, there is homestead, and it's your homestead property. You can't sell your house or refinance your house out from underneath your spouse, right? That's just how it's written in Florida. So especially on a refinance where you're refinancing a $450,000 home, we have to call and say, hey, you know, there's not really a marital status on your prior deeds, so we just have to confirm that such and such will be at closing, and that are they married? And it was, oh yeah, they're married. Okay, great. So that we called the mortgage company. This is who we had the conversation with. Like I said, normally we don't even have to make that call because it's husband and wife on title, or it's, you know, an unmarried person and this unmarried person. So we have some kind of an idea. We called, and turns out mortgage company goes, oh yeah, no, they're married. Okay, great, perfect, right? We get to the closing table though, and he was married, but not to the person on title with him. So the person on title with him that they had added themselves, right, was actually his girlfriend, his longtime girlfriend of like 8 years. So I find out, you know, because they were at the table, and there was some confusion over what was going on. So the wife, in his regard, the girlfriend that was actually there, that he had told the mortgage company was his wife, right, was actually not his wife. His real wife was actually on title. And it turns out that she was in a different state and not happy, not warm and fuzzy about the fact that he was trying to put the girlfriend on title, come to find out. So for us, it was a very awkward conversation, but the wife's perspective was, well, he left me for her. And so, no, I'm not going to sign off on them getting a new mortgage and mortgaging my property because technically it was their
Listen.
homestead, right? Before she decided, you're cheating on me, I'm going to live with my mother in Virginia. So that was kind of an awkward situation. We had another one that had it was a Chinese couple, and turns out that the husband for that one was actually in a Chinese jail, in prison for an undetermined amount of time. So, and they could not understand why they couldn't refinance, why we needed his signature. They couldn't understand. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but come to find out, something we've learned is that the Chinese government, the jails over there, their prisons, I should say, are not really as accessible as they are here.
I seen Prison
I'll
Break, so
say that. So when we called to try and find out, hey, can we get a power of attorney? Can we do whatever? No was really the resounding answer to that. And we had to jump through a bunch of hoops. We did finally get a power of attorney, but then it came back to us and it was in Chinese. So it was a really challenging close.
wow,
We didn't work around on that, but it was a
awesome.
little bit. We didn't end up closing it, but it was just one of those things where it was a lot of steps that we did not anticipate because the wife here didn't understand why her husband had to sign anything. It was like, well, I understand why you may not want him to, but legally we kind of need him to
Yeah.
with your homestead here. So we've ran into a lot of things. I've done some funky closings over the years, everything from death row to funeral homes to all sorts of stuff. So it's, we kind of just roll with
Wow.
it when it comes to that stuff. But, for the most part, that's the sort of stuff that, like I said, I like a challenge. So for me, it's always,
Yeah.
that's the fun part of my job. I don't know what I'm going to get every day. But not all title companies roll with those kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
challenges. So it's a different perspective. But.
So basically, what you're saying is, if you're in Florida, deal with Jen, and if you're not in Florida, find somebody like Jen. Okay. Well, Jen, that's all I got for you. I appreciate it. I was doing my research. I got to do my research before the interview, and then I do a double take on that post. I was like, I wonder what's behind that story. There's got to be something going on. So, I just thought I'd ask. So that's cool. If anybody got questions, now is the time. I'm about to let Jen go. But in the meantime, if I have any questions if you guys have any questions, post them now. But in the meantime, let me put up your information, which, by the way, I wasn't able to verify with you, so just let me know if this is correct. 1 second. Screen. There we go. 1 second. There we go. I don't know if you can see it. If you can see it, Jen, they can see it. Uh,
Oh, that's right. You got
that's
it.
good. Perfect. So that's Jen's information. If you're in Florida, definitely go with Jen. If you're not in Florida, uh, you know, sorry, but find somebody like Jen. Uh, all right, in the
Maybe
bottom is the promotion.
someday we'll be in more than just Florida. But for right now,
Yeah,
Florida's challenging
yeah,
enough most days. So
yeah.
we try and stick with what we know, and my team is also investor friendly. So if you don't get me on the phone, I've trained a kick-ass team that they're sick individuals just like me, where they like a good challenge. And if they don't know the answer, the biggest thing that we promise is that we'll find it out for you. But we
Cool.
also, we encourage you to give us a shout, and open door policy as far as questions go. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. It doesn't matter if you know nothing or if you know everything. There's always something else you can learn in this business. So we just encourage you to kind of do your research and make it smoother overall for everybody to make more money. So
Cool. 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 And she likes a challenge, apparently. So um, that's good. More power to you, because I'm just not that type of person. I mean, that would be so awkward if I were to do it, but it's
no,
more power to you. Anyways, guys, so that's it for me and Jennifer. I want to first of all give you the special announcement. In less than a month, we'll be launching a beta version of platform of marketninja.com, where you have instant access to nationwide buyers, access to our A through Z wholesaling blueprint, free access to any future courses that we have going on, which, by the way, we have one tomorrow and on Wednesday, and many other features that we still haven't built out, like member Q&As, just like this one, where you'll be able to answer questions to industry experts, mentor matching services, and if you'd like to be a part of that beta group, send me an email to Ninja. It's hold on one second. I had the email. There you go. ninja@offmarketninja.com. Send me email to that, and I'll go ahead and let you into the group. I'm only letting 30 people into that group, and it's $30 a month for life as long as you're still a member. Also, we have the wholesaling for newbies going on, which are the courses. You can go enrolled in for only $4. I'm sorry, for only $5. I'm reading $4.99 here because I was gonna make it $4.99, but it's $5. All right. We will be going over basic wholesaling principles and answer all your questions in regards to wholesaling for those newbies. For this week is Monday and Wednesday. Next week I'll probably do it also Monday and Wednesday. It's about an hour, hour and a half, depending on the questions. And I won't leave any questions unanswered, even if it's after the actual seminar. So next week we'll be talking to Tom Black. He's a virtual wholesaler. Tom is very knowledgeable. He's been in the business for about 17 years. That is Saturday, the 17th at 11 a.m. Well, actually 11:15 a.m. But just go ahead and tune in. And let's go back. Jen, really, really, really thank you. I want to thank you for being with us today. I'm sorry I went over about 2 minutes. Oh, actually, I'm on time. So I really want to thank you. I
No
want to
worries.
thank you. I want to thank you. And are you in the office, home office, or?
Yeah, this is my actual living room, my home office, kind of. So
Oh, okay.
that's the technology issues today. A little bit at the main
Oh,
office, I'm
that's
a
cool.
little set up, but this is Saturday, Jen. So
This Saturday, Jen. Okay, got you, got you. All right, it was good to see you. I haven't seen you in about 3 years. It was really, really good to see you. I'm really, really excited that you came over. And thanks again. And remember, send the Vikings. I saw your things. I had to say it. Send the Vikings. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.
thanks for the invite. Bye, guys.